Hi, welcome to Inward Bound for Mindful Living. I'm Shavin Bandaranaike. Throughout the past few episodes in this brand new second season, we've been looking at reflections and reactions. Today, we have with us once again Mr. Deepal Suryarachi. Today, Mr. Suryarachi, I think as per the discussion that we had as well, we need to move forward and maybe evolve what we talk about. And one specific topic, or rather like an analogy of two different mindsets that people have, is how they can't really manifest how others feel. And many seem to sort of confuse in terms of how you sympathize, or sympathy and empathy. How does mindfulness see these two concepts, and if you could elaborate?
That's a very interesting point. Shall we first try to define what empathy
Please.
is? Many times people say it's getting into somebody else's shoes, but very rarely you get into somebody else's shoes.
Yes.
If you take a continuum, on one end you have sympathy, which is like crying with you.
Right. Yeah.
And on the complete opposite side, you have a total apathy. Right? You are completely indifferent to something.
Right. Yes.
And empathizing is in between. Now you go to a doctor, right? And doctors don't cry because the patient has a serious ailment or a major something.
Yeah.
The doctor wouldn't say, my God, he doesn't cry. But family will cry if they hear you have a cancer or something like that. And
Frankly, you wouldn't want the doctor to cry as well, like when you go to him.
that's right. So doctors don't cry.
Yeah.
Okay. Neither the doctor says, "Oh, this is you are in mid-40s, right? You have a heart attack, no problem. Either you die or you can go for a bypass. It will cost you $1 million.
Yeah.
Are you ready?" No, he doesn't say like that.
Yes.
But when you go to the doctor, he asks some questions. How do you feel? Does it hurt when you breathe? Does it hurt when you move? And when I push like this, do you hurt? So when he's asking those questions, how do you feel? You feel that doctor has figured out what's wrong with me. He has understood. In Sinhala they say, Doctor Mahathir lede ahuwela. It's like that. So then how do you feel? You feel confident. You feel somehow reassured. So empathy has a complete different impact on the other person more than you.
Right. Okay.
When you feel that I empathize with you, depending on the context,
Yeah.
you will feel definitely better than otherwise. When you feel that I empathize with you, say you are in an angry moment because you have got something, you have a problem and you are frustrated. And if you feel that I understand what caused you to be so irritant, then I am being empathized. But if I say, yes, I know you are, I understand what you are saying, it doesn't mean, it's not what I am saying that I understand.
Yeah.
So saying it is different, but really empathizing is different. Now, how come, if you are mindful, that you can empathize with another person better than otherwise? That's the question.
Yeah.
Now, what happens with mindfulness? You begin to observe yourself. You begin to observe yourself in totality, with why you feel in a certain way, how you feel in a certain way, what caused you to feel. When you develop this sensitivity, you begin to notice the sensations of the other people's much better.
Right.
Actually, the early stages when you start practicing mindfulness, you sometimes feel, you sometimes wonder whether you have become more sensitive than before.
Right.
Actually, you have been sensitive throughout, but you are so insensitive to your own sensitivity, you didn't know that you are sensitive.
Right. Okay. So you're suggesting that our innate self is we are sensitive. It's
Yes.
just that we've repressed it so much that it's not. Yeah. Okay.
We don't have time, no?
Yeah.
We don't have time. Therefore, you just move on.
Yeah.
Like for example, say, you're on a public space, like traveling in a bus or a train, and you just, without realizing, you step onto somebody else's, on somebody else's feet. You just say sorry and you move on.
Yeah.
But it didn't occur to you that, that person is in real pain.
Yeah.
You can't take that pain away.
Correct.
But if that other person also feels that this guy couldn't help it, but he's also feeling the same feeling that I have,
Yeah.
then that person's physical pain is there, but he at least knows what to do.
I actually have a question in relation to that as well, Mr. Suraj. So, I've always felt that in terms of being empathetic towards another person, you sort of suggested that, okay, it means that it's not really what you say, but the way you say it and the way you react to what has happened, that will make the other person feel like he understands, and he also maybe in retrospect feels in a certain similar way. So does that mean that in order to empathize, you should have also been affected by something similar to that, or you don't need to?
Not necessarily, no, sometimes. But I think what happens is, if you are sensitive enough to your own being, that is the most important thing. Because you can act as if you are empathizing.
Right.
As a trained person, sometimes people, in these situations, sometimes they are trained to act. Now, that's different, being truly empathizing.
Right.
Because all animals have a way of sensing. Humans also have this sensing ability, but somehow we haven't, I think we don't pay attention to it.
Right.
That's why when you are in a situation, sometimes when it is extreme, you feel it.
Yeah.
Like tensed moment, happy moment, those are extremes,
Yeah,
then
the
you feel.
peaks basically.
Yeah. So, what I feel is, if you are mindful, then you are first aware of yourself. When you are first aware of yourself, you are kind of in a state where you are ready to receive the sensations of the other person.
That's actually a fascinating thought process. So, what you're saying is you're sort of poised. Your body is ready, and your mind rather is ready to understand by just seeing what that other person is going through. And you might not have really experienced the same exact thing.
Yeah.
But you are able to fathom this person is going through pain, happiness, joy. So you can feel proud. It's not just the bad side of it. You're saying pretty much any side whatsoever.
Yes.
I think we need to sort of elaborate on this much further, because we usually look at one side rather than the other. But in order to do so, let's take a very quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Inward Bound for Mindful Living. Where we left off earlier, Mr. Suraj, I think we need to sort of elaborate on that further. The fact that empathy is not necessarily what you need to have experienced yourself, but I think the word you coined was unselfish joy. How you can, without needing anything for yourself, you see another person's joy and you're truly proud of it. Shall we go on those lines?
Because when you talk of empathy, normally we think of only the negative side of things, and if somebody is upset and things like that. And a lot of people talk of the things that you need to do to empathize. But I think if you know, we are called human beings, not
Yes.
human things or human doings.
Yes.
But we are more like human doings and human things than human beings.
Correct.
If you are fully present here, you don't have to learn how to be empathizing and all that. That's the normal way.
Correct.
And it's very interesting that you brought this subject of when I see that you are happy, what happens to me? You know, and if I can rejoice that on the other person's success, that is what is called unselfish joy,
Right.
or in Pali it's called mudita.
Mm.
Now this is a very important ability that we need to explore much more.
Right.
Because how can you be happy when you are when you see somebody else's success? We tend to become experts if you keep doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And initially it may be alien to a person to be happy about somebody else's. Now, for example, say for parents, they don't have to think twice to be happy when their children do well.
Right. Yeah.
But when the relatives' children do well, why don't they feel the same way sometimes? Right? Your neighbors' A-level results came, your son's results are very good, you are very happy. Then your neighbor's son also has got very good results. Better results, then all right. Why? Because we tend to always compare ourselves with the others.
Right.
Right? So this whole comparison process makes you feel, am I equal to you? Am I above you? Am I below you?
Right.
Right?
Okay.
And in the stock of happiness, due to whatever the reason, if you are on a comparable state with me, because you are my friend, because you are my relative, because you are my neighbor, because I know you,
Yeah.
then I can compare my stock of happiness with your stock of happiness.
Happiness. Yeah.
I don't want my stock to be smaller compared to you.
Yeah.
And when I feel that my stock is smaller than yours, I feel little uncomfortable.
Isn't this, if I may ask you, isn't this sort of a byproduct of evolution though? The fact that, the survival of the fittest, so to speak. So competition is natural to people.
Yes, but let's understand what happens because of this. Right? And then you feel unhappy. This unhappiness is the one that manifests as jealousy.
Right. Okay.
So the opposite of jealousy is feeling happy.
Yeah.
Right? You're doing very well. And if I start being happy about the other person's success, then you become good at doing that. Then you begin to see somebody else's joy and you become happy because of that.
Right.
I mean, it's much cheaper than
Absolutely.
you getting through the exam. No?
I think it's also connected to the notion that some time back I heard that it's much simpler to smile than it is to frown or be very convoluted with yourself. So
Yes.
so I think it stems from that notion as well to some extent.
Exactly. Plus, take the bigger social aspect of it. If we keep promoting unselfish joy, the mudita, and we will recognize more people than now.
True. Yeah.
Just visualize these people practicing this and say, we celebrate everybody else's success. Then what are we doing? We are improving the stock of success.
Yes.
Improve the stock of happiness.
Don't go up alone, go collectively
Collectively.
together. Yeah.
I think that's a very, very important thing. I don't know, sometimes we are not discussing this enough. The power of unselfish joy the mudita. And then then what happens is you experience this happiness, you experience this joy, and then you learn it's good to congratulate on people, it is good to celebrate other people's success, it's good to feel happy that the other person is doing well. Then your system learns the new behavior.
Right.
What instead of saying, he's good, but instead of saying he is good and he is really good,
Correct.
and you begin to see good in people.
Yeah.
Then what happens is your life becomes much happier.
Correct.
Because you are filling your thoughts with thoughts of happiness and joy.
Positivity. Basically.
Positivity.
Yeah.
So then you only see the good things in people.
Correct. And then you move forward with that positive energy, and I think that's quite an important point as well that you brought up, Mr. Surachi, because most of the time, harking back to the story of my friend who came down and he became depressed, it's purely not because of a reaction, it's just because he wasn't getting that positive energy.
Yes.
You get affected by it as well. If you're positive yourself, you exude that positivity around you, it will affect others as well.
Yes. Haven't you seen, there are some people when they come to a gathering, they bring with them so much happiness, then everybody becomes happy.
Correct. Yeah.
And they bring that happiness because these are all acquired behavior. So if you start smiling, keep smiling, and then it becomes your way.
Right.
So many things we have acquired, the way to walk, way to sit, all these things can learn. So learn to smile.
Right, okay. So do you feel in any sense that maybe the general things that we learn, taking our context, taking our neck of the woods, so Sri Lanka, from when we are children to when we are young adults to when we are grown-ups, do you feel like the system that has been set up for us doesn't allow that in any way?
Unfortunately, I think, how many times we celebrate achievements of other people collectively.
Yeah.
In the classroom maybe, in the village maybe, in the family circles, in a way that it creates, even if you compel people to congratulate, it doesn't matter. Initially you might do it without real feeling, but somehow, when you keep doing it, it's very easy.
Yeah, right? It'll be like the train journey of yours that we spoke about. You might not think it's going to be a good experience, but then at one point you start to think about it and okay, fine, you know what, it's a good addition to my life as well. Yeah.
And I in fact once suggested somebody that we promote a concept called Mudita Awards in the country.
Wow. Okay.
Because you recognize all the little successes at the village level and the town level and the whole country. So then we become talking about success. So you completely change the cycle.
And also you tend to motivate others also to follow in those footsteps. I think that's a wonderful, if we can implement it, that's something that we must. Right now, however, we have to take a very quick commercial break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inward Bound for Mindful Living. Mr. Surachi, I think we left off the last segment on a very, very important note, and you mentioned that this is something that we need to foster in Sri Lanka as well, which doesn't really happen, mudita, the fact that you feel, unselfish joy towards another person. I think it's a good opportunity, if you don't mind, whether we can think about certain practical aspects of it, how it can be manifested.
I think it's important to understand why it is not so prevalent.
Absolutely.
What is prevalent is feeling jealousy. That is because always this thought of jealousy, like for example, say, it is easy to be happy if somebody has done well who is not necessarily related to you. When I say related, not at a comparable point of
Right.
your career,
Of course.
same age, same neighborhood, same family circle, you know, anything that is closely knit. If it is not, then it is easy to feel happy.
Right.
If you look at, in most instances, why we feel jealous is because this person has some nexus to my life. You don't feel jealous about people who are far away.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And because we are a island nation, we are a bunch of villagers, you know, basically, if you come to look at it, and we know too much of each other,
Yes.
therefore, it's very easy for us to feel jealous. Now, the moment you know that, and then you see, you suddenly, first you experience pain when you feel jealous.
Correct.
That is the first feeling.
Yeah.
This feeling of intolerable sensation.
Yes.
And then some people, when they are so jealous, they stop looking at you, because when they look at it, they get hurt.
Yes.
Now, when you know that that is a negative feeling, the mudita, on the other hand, unselfish joy, is a completely opposite of that, which is the positive thing.
Correct.
What I think is, what we can do is start practicing this unselfish joy at easy levels.
Okay.
Right? Because we have to learn this skill.
Yeah.
So, therefore, anybody has a success reported in their Facebook page, then you can compliment, congratulate generously.
Yes.
And feeling, you know, like
as if you have achieved it yourself.
exactly.
Almost, yeah.
Once a professor from Jaffna University, he wrote a book, and he said he wrote this book. One of the persons who inspired writing this book was me, he said.
I see.
And he invited, in fact, me to come and join the launch event in Jaffna.
Right.
Somehow I couldn't, he changed the dates, so I couldn't fit into the new dates, so I couldn't go. So I wrote a letter, and in writing the letter, I thought about it. How do you feel when your book is launched? This experience of touching the first few copies that from the publisher,
Yeah.
the smell of the print and the feeling, and I wrote all these things and said, I know that you are going through this experience. And he wrote back and said, it really made me feel happy. And I rejoiced at his happiness.
Right.
Right. So when you do that, it's very easy for you to do it to anybody.
Yeah.
Right. Now that's very easy, because he is not so close to me and there's no comparable point.
Yeah.
And so if you can do it to people who are not so close, right, maybe my same class, same background, and person also does something good, can I be happy?
Correct.
Right. So even if you can't be 100% happy, there's a little bit of a little bit of jealousy, but still go ahead and do that.
Right. Yeah.
Then what happens is you overwrite. This is all like writing a new software thing.
Yeah.
So you rewrite the program.
Yes.
And when you do that, it becomes your nature. Then why should you get unhappy because of somebody else? Not worth.
True.
So if I can be happy because of that, I'm up on the deal.
So this is actually, I mean, if you really think about it, this is where you smile at when somebody hates what you do. It's basically you derive joy out of the people that hate what you do and that are your haters. That's usually the coining phrase there. I think if we can like take the feeling of unselfish joy, maybe if we remove the nexus, because you mentioned the fact that as long as a person is close to you, then only you feel this jealousy, and it's much more harder. But then I think like Sri Lankans, like all of us, are used to feeling unselfish joy in many other contexts. For example, think of a World Cup final, for example. Right. Your favorite cricketer hits a century. Yes. You feel as if you did that, right? And yes, you have no correlation with him, but that's the feeling that you need to get.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's a brilliant example. So what a wonderful feeling is that.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So why don't you enjoy getting it? And you can get it free.
Exactly. So whether you can translate that into normal everyday scenarios, absolutely. Yeah.
So we don't celebrate this beauty,
Yeah.
right? And
That's
then so I mean you can be happy so much without you, right? And then you experience this joy in life.
Yeah. That's true.
So mindfulness helps you become aware. Why are you getting worried about this? The moment you get that message, you can switch on to the next message saying, okay, so why can I be happy?
I think if everyone is able to actually incorporate that into their lives, like collectively, that's the whole point, that you yourself, improving yourself will affect others around you, and then the others around you, and it goes on.
It has a ripple effect.
Absolutely.
It has a ripple effect.
To continue our tradition though, I think for our viewers as well, since we've been getting numerous requests for this over and over again from last season onwards, would you mind maybe taking me through and our viewers through one of our guided sessions? Yes.
Today, let's try to practice watching the sensations at the bottom of your feet. And today we just focus on your feet and see where they are right now. The feeling inside the shoe, how, if you are touching the ground, which part of the sole that you touch the ground, whether it is the heel and what part of the toes touch, and see, if you put a footprint with a wet feet, how will it be, and what are the places that touches the ground. Try to feel every little sensation that is there, and start with your right foot and keep looking at it until you finish every little part of your sole that is in contact with the ground, and see how much can you feel. Okay, now it's a very simple exercise, but you begin to notice that there are little places in your soul that you didn't know that was there.
Absolutely, and you are quite focused on that as well.
Right.
Thank you ever so much, Mr. Suryachi, and thank you to our viewers for being with us as well. And here's to hoping that the remainder of your week is as mindful as the 30 minutes that you've spent with us. So until next time, goodbye.